Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission is pretty simple. Take a whole stack of information, articles, reports, notes, you name it, and really pull out the key insights for you.
Think of us as your research assistants, maybe. Finding the important stuff, connecting the dots.
Exactly. And today, we're diving deep into sources about a really serious event in Boulder, Colorado on June 1st, 2025.
Yeah, it's specifically about a fire attack on a group that was doing a solidarity walk, a really disturbing incident.
Mm-hmm. We've got quite a mix of sources lined up. There's Wikipedia, AP reports, BBC, Colorado Public Radio, the Boulder Reporting Lab.
Even a congressional record bit and the city's own victim services guide. So a broad range.
Right, and our goal here is just to navigate what these sources say. Stick to the facts presented, understand the timeline, the investigation details, the legal side, and the reactions.
Strictly based on the information in this specific collection of materials. No going outside that.
Okay, let's get into it. Starting right there on Pearl Street where it all happened.
Oh.
The sources are pretty precise about the setting.
They are. It was about 1:26 in the afternoon, Mountain Time, Sunday, June 1st, 2025, right on the Pearl Street Mall.
And it wasn't random, was it? The sources identify the target clearly.
No, not at all. It was a group participating in a weekly walk by Run for Their Lives.
Which is described as being about solidarity, calling for the release of hostages taken from Israel back on October 7th.
Exactly. And the organizers, according to these reports, emphasize it's about humanity, period.
Yeah.
They also said this was the first time any of their global events faced violence.
And the Boulder chapter, specifically, they walk for 18 minutes.
Yeah, 18 minutes weekly. The sources mention it relates to the Hebrew word chai, meaning life. It's the numerical value.
So how did the attack itself unfold based on these accounts?
Well, the reports state a man allegedly used a makeshift flamethrower and Molotov cocktails.
And witnesses and officials reported hearing him shout, "Free Palestine!"
Yes, that's consistently reported. The police chief also noted the first 911 calls were, pretty chaotic reports of a man with a weapon, people literally being set on fire.
It's just awful. And the human cost, what do the sources say about the victims?
16 people injured altogether. That figure includes the suspect.
Okay.
So 12 other victims. Their ages ranged pretty widely, from 52 up to 88 years old.
And the injuries were consistent with burns.
Yes, burns ranging from serious to minor. 2 victims had to be airlifted to a burn unit.
That's harrowing. The sources also mentioned specifically that a Holocaust survivor was among those injured.
That's correct. A Holocaust survivor and also a dog was hurt in the attack. These details really bring home the scope of the trauma.
Definitely. Okay, let's shift focus a bit to the person arrested at the scene, Mohammed Sabri Solomon.
Right. He's identified as 45 years old, an Egyptian man who was living in Colorado.
And his background, particularly his immigration status, seems, well, complicated, according to the reports.
It does. Sources citing DHS and DOJ lay it out like this. He came in on a B-2 non-immigrant visa, that's like a tourist visa, in August 2022.
Okay.
Applied for asylum the very next month, September 2022. His B-2 visa expired February 2023.
But he got work authorization.
He did, in March 2023. But that expired March 28, 2025. So after that date, according to DHS and DOJ in these reports, he was in the U.S. illegally.
And his asylum claim was still pending when this happened?
Still pending as of June 2025. One source did mention an initial report that said he arrived in 2023, so a slight discrepancy in early reporting perhaps.
What about his alleged motives? The sources seem quite direct on what he told police.
They are. Based on police interviews and affidavits cited, he said he targeted the group because he believed they were Zionists.
Stating he hates the Zionist group.
Yes, and wanted to kill all Zionist people. He reportedly called it vengeance for his people and said he wanted to stop people from taking over our land, referring to Palestine. Pretty chilling statements.
Absolutely. And what about planning? Was this spontaneous?
Doesn't look like it based on state and federal documents mentioned. This suggests he'd been planning it for about a year.
A year? Wow.
But there's this really specific personal detail reported he apparently waited until his daughter graduated high school, which was just the Thursday before the attack.
That's quite a juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Planning for a year, but timing it around a family event.
It is.
Yeah.
The reports also say he researched making Molotov cocktails because he couldn't buy a gun legally due to his status.
And the actual attack, the flamethrower, the Molotovs. What else do the sources say about his actions and intentions at the scene?
Well, he used the makeshift flamethrower and an incendiary device. He apparently carried 18 Molotov cocktails.
18.
Yeah, but only used 2. He reportedly told detectives he stopped because he got scared and had never hurt anyone before.
Mm.
He also had gasoline in a backpack, a commercial-grade one, and a weed sprayer.
A weed sprayer for what?
He allegedly told them he planned to use that to set himself on fire, to kill himself. Said he would never forgive himself if he did not do it.
So a mix of aggression towards others and stated self-harm intentions. Very complex.
Definitely. And there's also a neighbor's account included in one source.
Oh, what did they say?
Spoke anonymously to local TV. A mother said he introduced himself as Mohammed back in 2023, and her young daughter played with his kids regularly.
Okay.
The daughter apparently saw the whole Solomon family rush into their SUV the day before the attack, and they ignored her when she tried to wave.
The day before.
Interesting.
Yeah. And she also saw him, Solomon, leaving their apartment shortly before they left, carrying a big black bag and a specific yellow long-nosed lighter.
Those details from the neighbor, they add another dimension, don't they? Alongside the official reports about year-long planning.
They really do. It paints a more detailed, maybe more confusing picture leading up to the event.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the response. How did emergency services react? The timelines seem crucial here.
They do, and the sources suggest a remarkably fast response, based on dispatch logs, GPS, body cam footage.
So the first 911 call.
1:26 p.m. The call was officially entered and dispatched just a minute later, 1:27.
And police on scene?
First Boulder officer arrived at 1:30 p.m.
And the suspect was in custody by 1:31 p.m. That's just 5 minutes from the first call.
Incredible speed. What about medical help, getting aid to those injured?
Also very quick. At 1:31, same time the suspect was caught, a fire battalion chief arrived and called for 5 ambulances.
Okay.
1:32, the first paramedic fire engine arrived, and they requested air ambulances then too.
Right.
First ground ambulance was there at 1:33. More paramedic engines arrived right after that, and the first air ambulance landed within 6 minutes of being requested.
The sources emphasize the paramedic-equipped fire engines being key.
Yeah, it meant advanced life support could start almost immediately, right there on scene, before ambulances even arrived. Crucial for burn victims.
How was the incident initially framed by authorities?
Well, the FBI, according to the reports, called it a targeted terror attack pretty much right away.
Okay.
Boulder Police Chief Redfern, at an initial press conference, said it was too early to discuss a motive, which is standard procedure.
Sure.
But later, he did describe it as an anti-Semitic attack.
Got it. And the investigation itself, what's the status reported?
Ongoing. Officials were interviewing witnesses, identifying potential victims. The FBI searched Solomon's home, gathered digital evidence.
Any other threats?
The FBI stated they weren't tracking any other credible threats in the Boulder area related to this.
And the sources mention victim support.
Yes, the City of Boulder's Victim Services Unit. They offer support, explain rights, provide referrals. They also mention Vine.
Victim information and notification every day.
That's the one. Lets victims track custody status of offenders in the county jail, get notified of release or transfer.
Important info.
And victims might get a free copy of the initial police report with their social security number blacked out. Info on charges, bond, court dates that comes from the DA's Victim Witness Unit or the courts and jail directly.
Good practical information there. Let's turn to the legal side now, the charges against Solomon.
They're extensive. Initially, on June 1st, the day of the attack, he was booked on 42 state felony counts.
42, including attempted murder.
Yes, 8 counts of attempted first-degree murder, extreme indifference, another 8 counts of attempted first-degree murder after deliberation, plus assault charges, including against at-risk victims and possessing incendiary devices.
But those charges increase.
Dramatically. By June 5th, in Boulder County Court, he was facing 118 state criminal charges.
118. What changed?
More attempted murder counts, up to 28, I believe. And they added animal cruelty because of the dog that was injured.
Right. And wasn't there a federal charge, too?
Yes. On June 2nd, he was charged federally with a hate crime act.
Bail was set pretty high, wasn't it?
Extremely high. $10 million. His lawyer indicated they'd address bond conditions later.
What about his court appearances?
He appeared June 2nd via video from jail. The reports mentioned him wearing a prison jumpsuit, having a bandage. The judge, Nancy Salamone, banned victim contact, kept bail at $10 million.
And security was tight for that hearing.
Very. The sources described the jail being on lockdown, guards nearby, even 3 snipers on the roof for protection. He was then set for a federal court appearance on June 6th for the hate crime charge.
And his family. The sources mention something about them, too.
Yeah, on June 4th, DHS reportedly said ICE was processing his wife and 5 children for removal proceedings. Deportation.
Yeah, that was stopped.
Temporarily, yes.
Yeah.
A federal judge issued a temporary halt later that same day, citing potential irreparable harm if they were removed without adequate process.
So the legal fallout spread quickly beyond just him.
Absolutely. It immediately brought in complex immigration law issues for the family.
Okay, let's wrap up by looking at the reactions and the broader impact. How was this attack characterized overall?
Widely labeled as anti-Semitic by the city of Boulder, the Department of Justice, press reports, and authorities are investigating it as terrorism and a federal hate crime. So, multiple serious labels.
And condemnations came from various places.
Oh, yeah. A bipartisan group of Jewish state lawmakers in Colorado called for allies to speak out forcefully against hate.
Mm-hmm.
The UN Alliance of Civilizations representative condemned it as anti-Semitic, linking it to other attacks in the U.S. and France.
Governor Polis?
Colorado Governor Jared Polis called it an act of terror, said hate is unacceptable, prayed for victims, and mentioned he knew 2 of them personally.
What about nationally?
Former President Joe Biden condemned the violent, targeted attack on the Jewish community, called for unity. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi pledged the DOJ would seek full accountability.
I'm internationally.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned it, specifically linking it to the blood libel conspiracy theory.
Right, that's a historically potent anti-Semitic trope. His use of that term signals how seriously the alleged anti-Semitic motive was taken.
Definitely. But the reaction within Boulder itself seems to have been tense, especially politically.
Yeah, the sources detail some friction. The city council faced criticism for not initially signing a statement specifically calling the attack anti-Semitic.
Why not?
One council member reportedly wanted it described as anti-Zionist as well, or instead.
And how did others react to that?
Sharply, according to the sources, other council members called that a pedantic distinction, grotesque, and accused the suggestion of peddling and egging on this very anti-Semitism. So yeah, real disagreement over the wording. That shows how charged that specific language is. Did this tension spill over into council meetings?
It seems so. Reports mention rising tensions, increasingly divisive public comments, including anti-Semitic slurs, personal attacks on Jewish council members, like calling one a Nazi or Jewish supremacist.
That's awful.
Yeah. So, citing those tensions, plus strained police resources and security concerns after the attack, the city council suspended open comment and banned in-person attendance for the meeting right after the attack, apparently without discussing it publicly first.
A significant move. How did the attack impact the local Jewish community and the Run for Their Lives group directly?
Well, it happened right at the start of Shavuot, a Jewish holiday. Rabbis urged people to keep victims in their prayers, but not let the attack ruin the holiday's joy.
And the walking group.
Run for Their Lives. Organizers said they will continue walking weekly, but they'll ask for a police escort now. And a group representing hostage families planned to send someone to join the next Boulder Walk, a show of solidarity.
What about the timing with the Boulder Jewish Festival?
Yeah, that was scheduled for the very next Sunday in the same area, Pearl Street Mall. The sources mentioned some community members felt a new sense of fear, understandably, but also expressed determination to continue speaking out.
Finally, the sources noted some reactions connecting this to immigration policy.
Yes, President Trump was quoted saying Solomon would be deported in addition to arrest, using it as an example for border security and deporting illegal anti-American radicals. He also later reportedly cited the attack as motivation for proposed travel restrictions on 19 countries. Though, interestingly, Egypt wasn't on that list in the reports we have.
So the event was quickly folded into existing political narratives about borders and security.
Exactly. Shows how these incidents get viewed through different lenses depending on the speaker's focus.
Okay, let's try to pull this together. Based purely on this stack of sources, we've seen the horrific details of the attack, the profile of the accused, his alleged motives, his complex legal status.
We've seen the incredibly rapid emergency response, very serious state and federal charges, and then this wide spectrum of reactions from local political clashes over language to national and international condemnations.
Yeah, it's really striking how one event touches so many different areas: individual trauma, community fear, political debate, immigration law, law enforcement procedures, definitions of hate crime versus terrorism.
And how global conflicts can have such a direct, violent impact on a local community event. These sources give us a real snapshot of that immediate aftermath, from the sirens to the city council arguments.
Right. So here's something to think about. just based on what we've discussed from these reports. The sources mention the attacker allegedly planned this for a year, but specifically waited until after his daughter's graduation.
Mm. And then you have that neighbor's account of the family's sort of hasty departure the day before.
Exactly. So, based only on those pieces of information presented here, this idea of long-term, maybe ideologically driven planning combined with timing linked to a personal milestone and these observed family actions. What does that combination suggest to you about the complexities of trying to understand motive and intent just from these initial reports?
Yeah, the apparent contradiction or maybe the intertwining of the personal and the political.
Yeah.
It's definitely something to mull over.
Something for you to consider as you continue your own deep dive.